Hey, everybody, welcome to the Buck Brief. On this episode, Rob Smith joins us, my buddy. He is the host of Can't Cancel Rob Smith, which still true because he's here and he has not been canceled. So there you go. The unique selling proposition of your program so far, Rob, accurate in that you have not been canceled. Good to see you.
Good to see you too, brother. Thanks for having me.
Yeah, let's start with so Rob is a gay black man, as well as a do you still self-describe as conservative?
I describe as more of a right-leaning independent. Also a veteran as well for the new folks that may not be familiar with me. But I identify right now as pretty much a right-leaning independent. We'll never be a lib. We'll never be a Democrat. We'll never, ever, ever be on the left again. I think a lot of people are kind of confused about that when I get a little critical of folks on our side of the aisle.
So because what I want to ask you about was last year this time. It's Pride Month, everybody. Rob used to have a line on his show that he was America's favorite black gay veteran, right? I think, wasn't that?
Yeah, no. I used to call myself, when I first started doing all this stuff, I used to call myself America's favorite black gay Republican.
Black gay Republican. Okay, well now we can say black gay veteran now. There we go. But Pride Month a year ago it felt like it was everywhere, and it was a very aggressive messaging campaign from the corporate side.
Yeah.
It feels like things are different this year. What's your sense of that?
It does feel like things are different this year. There's a whole lot going on, Buck, and I've actually become much more interested in this, as somebody from the right side of the aisle that really thinks about conservatives, infiltrating different spaces, right? Particularly corporations. So there are some very, very strong and very powerful right-leaning platforms, particularly on X, and I think of libs of TikTok, right? And so now when these corporations get too much into the pride propaganda, and what a lot of people don't understand, what I really want to break down here is that, like, pride propaganda is not about the average gay and lesbian American. That is not who it's about. It's really about sort of like the far left TQ fringe that's pushing this political ideology on people that the vast majority of people just are not in line with. So last year, in the years leading up to last year, I would say over the past 5 to 10 years, there's just been an onslaught of these corporations shoving pride propaganda down people's throats. Now, what started to happen was that conservatives started getting a larger and larger voice on social media. Then you have somebody like me or like a libs of TikTok or somebody else that is saying, hey, we don't particularly have an issue with gay and lesbian Americans, but what we don't want is TQ plus fringe propaganda shoved down our throats by corporations. Now, corporations started to follow suit. There's obviously the biggest example of backlash was the Bud Light Dylan Mulvaney thing. So Dylan Mulvaney was this far left trans influencer that did this deal with Bud Light. Conservatives were outraged. It caused a huge problem with Bud Light. They lost a whole lot of money.
Isn't it fair to say, though, it's not like Dylan Mulvaney did an ad for like an eyeshadow, like mascara company or something. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
Like Budweiser or Bud Light. I mean, Budweiser. That's just, what's next? Bass Pro Shops. It just didn't seem like a good fit from anyone's perspective.
No, not at all. And so conservatives were outraged about this. And so now as corporations decide that they don't want that backlash, they don't want that smoke from a lot of the very influential conservatives online. So now they're pulling back with a lot of this stuff. And you have seen and felt the pullback. We're seeing less pride collections. I actually just did a TikTok about it. I'm in New York right now. I was just walking around Rockefeller Center. And so look, they'll have the pride flags that everybody saw, for years and years and years. But they won't have what they call the quote unquote progress flag, which is this super, far left TQ agenda flag with all the stripes and the circles and all that stuff on it. So there's kind of, corporations are pulling back to the center when it comes to the pride insanity.
And is there, Rob, from within the community, is there discussion of, pride flag, people marching, pride parade, rather, people marching, loud tech. I like techno music, like loud techno music. Great. Like, doing the celebration stuff. Great. But sometimes the like dancing in leather thongs with like a choke collar with spikes on it, and some of the things you see.
Yeah.
Is there any sense that like sometimes New York? I mean, I've seen this. I'm not just like I've seen this. I used to live on the Pride Parade route in New York
Oh,
City,
I'm
so
sure.
I've seen stuff. And some of the stuff you see is a little like I don't think people should be doing this stuff in public necessarily. I mean, it's not illegal, but it's like, is there a conversation about toning it down a little bit?
The conversation about toning it down has started now. I'm one of the chief people that's sort of like advocating for all of this stuff, and it's still a very unpopular conversation within that subset of the population. They don't want to hear anybody telling them to tone anything down because they'll pretend that they fought for decades for the rights to, march in leather, next to kids, or to be in puppy masks, or all the weird fetish stuff that's going on right
Yeah,
now,
there's some
right?
weird stuff.
There's weird fetish stuff going on. They're very hesitant, and they're very resistant to the messaging. But look, Buck, like at some point, normal, regular old gay and lesbian Americans who fought for our rights to basically just exist. Basically, what we said is we're just like everybody else. Like we're there, okay, and we were there about a decade ago. Everything else that has happened since then is this lunatic fringe that has taken over, and there's a lot of gay lesbian Americans that are just normal, regular tax paying. We pay too much taxes just like every other American.
Yeah.
But we're basically saying that, guys, tone it down. Enough is enough. And it's not a popular message right now, but I think that it's starting to get through.
Let's talk next about the black community, Rob. We're gonna go through
Boy, here we go.
Because
we're checking all the boxes today, aren't we?
2020. Look, man, I feel like while I've got you here to shed some light on some things from the eye perspective, yes. Because there's the polling about Trump and the black community is fascinating. So let's talk about that in just a second. But first up, our sponsor, Tunnel to Towers. A whole generation of kids knows little to nothing about our nation's darkest day, 9/11. The day our nation was attacked and 2,977 people were killed. Today, more than 80,000 people are suffering with 9/11-related illnesses. That day is still taking lives. The Tunnel to Towers Foundation's 9/11 Institute helps educate kids in kindergarten through 12th grade about 9/11. The 9/11 Institute offers nonfiction first-person accounts told through videos and the Discovering Heroes book series, curriculum units with scripted social studies lessons, activities for kids, and background for teachers so they can teach with ease. The curriculum teaches about 9/11 while teaching kids skills. To never forget, we must educate future generations. Help our nation honor its vow. Donate $11 a month. I donate $11 every month. It's so easy. It's on auto renew. It just keeps doing it, and you're doing something really worthy with those dollars. T2T.org. That's T, the number 2T.org. Rob, I have a bet with Clay. He says more than 25% of black men are going to vote for Donald Trump. I say that would be great, but no way. Who's right?
Let me see. 25% is large. Okay. I think that you're right. I think that it's kind of a no way. And so when we talk about this Trump and the black community thing, and this is it makes me unpopular sometimes, sort of like in our conservative media sphere, because this is what I always have to say about it. So I was on the campaign trail for Trump in 2020. I was a part of a coalition, like one of the I don't want to say identity group coalitions, but I was in one of the coalitions for Trump, and I was on the campaign trail, right? Like I did a couple of events, and I was flying around, and I was doing all the stuff. And in 2020, Trump had the Platinum Plan. Trump had like this actual policy ideas that he wanted to institute for the black community. He was doing a whole lot. You know what happened in 2020, Buck? 9% of black voters overall showed up. He got even less of the black vote in 2020 than he did in 2016, which was crazy to me until I actually crunched the numbers. So when I see this conversation in 2024 that says, oh my God, Trump is doing so great among black people. These polls are saying this is going to be 20, 30, 40, 50%. I always want to throw a little cold water on it because I have to say, look, in 2020, we thought this as well, and it just didn't happen for whatever reasons, right? I think that what a lot of people don't talk about when it comes to the black vote is that black male vote is really what they're going for. And that is one thing that a lot of people really don't break it down because black women are just highly unlikely to vote for Trump. So what we're really talking about is working class black men That number in 2020 was about 18%. Do I see that going up to 25%? I think that that's aggressive. I think that you could probably get that specific number of black men up to about 20 to 22%. But when we talk about the overall black vote, like, let's really break that down and let's really talk about who we're talking about here. We're talking about black men.
What could Trump do? What should he do to get that number as high as he possibly can?
Yeah, honestly, to tell you the truth, Buck, I don't think that he does any more than what is already being done, right? I think that visually going to these communities that he went to, I think that there was just an event in Detroit over the weekend. Like, he had gone to a black church there. He had went to the quote unquote hood. I personally don't like it when people are like, oh, Trump's going to go to the hood and do all that stuff. I don't like that because it rubs me the wrong way in a couple different reasons. But we'll just say that he went to a lower income black community and said that I am out here really advocating for your vote. To be honest, Buck, I don't know that there's much more besides that he can do, aside from likely at some point rolling out some new version, of the Platinum Plan, which was a very specific policy initiative that was dedicated for black voters, to black voters, that he had come out with in 2020. So honestly, I think that in terms of what they're doing right now, in terms of doing the outreach, in terms of doing things that are going to get a lot of earned media, I think that that's the right move. I think that we need to see whatever the 2024 version of the Platinum Plan is, if there even is one. I don't know, because nobody really seems to be talking about policy anymore. But I think that people should really, really, really temper their expectations when it comes to talking percentages. And I'm going to say something that's actually super controversial that gets me in trouble, because again, nobody ever wants to speak freely. And if you listen to Can't Cancel Rob Smith, you know that one of the reasons I call it that is because, the left and the right come after me for different reasons. I think that we have to start being honest with conservatives and Republicans, and be honest about the fact that Republicans generally win if the black voter turnout is depressed. If we say that, not if we say, but if black voters decide that I'm not voting for Joe Biden because I am just not voting for 4 more years of this, but I don't necessarily want to vote for Trump or Republicans either for whatever reason, then Republicans win because Democrats are not getting the 91 to 2% of the black vote that they need to win, right? That's controversial, but it's a fact.
Yeah, no, I think that even if there's just underperformance for Joe Biden in the black community, that could be it in some of these swing states, because people talk a lot about the Latino vote. Interestingly, the Latino vote tends to be in non-competitive states.
Yes.
Obviously hugely in California, in New York, but even in some of the more sort of border, Texas, but in the border states, for example, Latino vote is not going to, it's not going to change anything in Michigan, in Wisconsin, in Pennsylvania. It's black and white voters in those states that are going to make the difference. So I think that the numbers speak very clearly on that one. Come back here with I'm sorry, go ahead, Rob.
No, I was going to say, and while we're talking about color, let's talk about the fact that Trump needs white voters. I don't know why nobody's really talking about this, but one of the big reasons that Trump lost in 2020 is because his white voter turnout was
working
less
class
than it was in 2016.
Working class voters, or blue collar white voters, are going to be most likely the difference maker from the Trump side of things, right? I mean, if he gets
absolutely
2 or 3% more of that vote where he needs it, he'll win. Come back, excuse me, with Rob Smith with more here in just a second. But a good friend of mine and a business partner of many years did something pretty interesting recently. He's the CEO of a publicly traded company, and he cut his salary to just $1 a year. Why would he do that? His name is Porter Stansberry. It's because he's not greedy, and it's not because he doesn't need the money, whatever. More importantly, it's because Porter says he's found a much better way to save and get paid. You see, Porter says there's essentially a new form of money in America, and it's making some people wildly rich. Most of the richest people in America use it, and you can too. It's not gold or Bitcoin. Porter says what's interesting is that while every American is legally entitled to use the secret currency, few know much about it. Porter's hoping to change that. He says the way our government is destroying the U.S. dollar, you need to understand how this new money works. He thinks it's the most critical way to protect and grow wealth in the years to come as the dollar collapse continues. Go check out Porter's latest detailed presentation at secretcurrency2024.com. He details how to protect and grow your wealth in the years to come using America's new money. Go to secretcurrency2024.com. That's secretcurrency2024.com. Rob, give me some insights, some predictions on, is Biden going to do well in this debate? Is the VP for Trump somebody that you already have in mind? Do you think it matters? You know, where are you on some of these, the day in, day out political cycle questions right now? I mean, we start with the debate. How do you think it shakes out?
Well, let me tell you something. It's really funny because I'm doing an episode on this pod. So CNN basically just came out with, their rules for the debate. These are the rules that the Trump administration, that Trump has agreed to. So these are the rules. Mic's cut off when it's not your turn to speak. No live audience. 2 commercial breaks. No pre-written notes. Now, for me, if I'm Team Trump, why would I agree to not having a live audience? Why would I agree to Mike's cut off when it's not your turn to speak? It seems to me a little crazy. It seems to me that all of these things that are gonna advantage Biden more than they advantage Trump. I'm actually very shocked that the Trump team agreed to this, but I think that one of the biggest problems that Trump has and has always had is that he desires the love of people who hate him, in this case, CNN, who's never going to give him a fair shake. I do not think that, look, I think he's going to very easily outshine Biden, but these rules that are being put in place, everybody knows that Biden is not it right now. He's like an extra from The Walking Dead, right? So these rules advantage Biden more than they advantage Trump. I think that Trump will do fine in the debate, but the expectations are so low for Biden. The only thing he has to do is basically not drool on himself, and people are going to declare this a win.
Yeah, I think it's very hard for Joe Biden to underperform expectations, which is a great place to be. If he stands there and says things, and he can go on autopilot with that. It doesn't matter if he addresses the debate points, the question points, as long as he's just saying, middle class, jobs, not a joke, and just the usual Joe Biden stuff. And then he walks off stage. People are going to say on the Democrat side that it's a huge win. And, Trump in a debate like, as you're pointing out, in a debate where it's not, Rock'em Sock'em Thunderdome, I don't think that advantages Trump. I think that he is more of a guy who feeds off the crowd. So I think that this could be, unfortunately, I think this could be a moment when the momentum could start to shift toward Biden, just based on, not because I think he'll do well, but I don't think he's going to do so badly that the current trajectory will continue, and they'll start to turn things in the other direction. They'll say, oh, well, look at him. He got on stage. He debated. He's fine.
And, and I got to say this too, Buck, the RNC and Team Trump, like, they have to start pushing back a lot more on these mainstream media outlets than they do. Because on one hand, and this is one of the issues that I have with a lot of them, they will complain up and down about the fake news and the mainstream media and how they don't get a fair shake, et cetera, et cetera. But yet they will go right to a mainstream legacy media outlet for the first debate, which is the most crucial one of this election cycle. And I just don't understand it. They were going in a right direction. The RNC was, when they had that debate during the primaries. I think it was at the one that they hosted in. No, it wasn't at the one. But when they did, when they had Megyn Kelly as a moderator, and they had some more independent / right-leaning people moderated. I feel like the RNC was going in a good direction in terms of their primary debate. But look, here we are in a presidential election again, and then they cede all of this ground right back to legacy media, who they know is not on their side, who they know is not going to give them a fair shake. And so at a certain point, conservatives, Republicans, people that are supporting that ticket need to start asking the RNC why they keep on playing into the hands of legacy media.
I ask that question all the time. By the way, do you drink coffee, Rob?
I do.
We got to get you some Crockett coffee, my friend. CrockettCoffee.com. Go subscribe today, everybody. It's delicious. We got flavored roasts coming soon. We got medium and dark roast. Light roast will be there in July. So rolling out new product lines, new SKUs, as they say in the business. And we're excited to partner with Tunnel to Towers on this. We're giving 10% of the profits to the Tunnel to Towers Foundation. So you're supporting a great cause and drinking delicious coffee. Go to CrockettCoffee.com. And Rob, my friend, always good to see you. We'll have to have you over for dinner soon here in Miami as a fellow Miamian. And tell me this, where can people go to listen to Can't Cancel Rob Smith?
Yes, they can find Can't Cancel Rob Smith on Apple Podcasts, iHeart Podcasts, wherever you get your podcasts. And if you're over on YouTube, we're actually video only once a week on YouTube. We got a video episode once a week on YouTube. You can find that at YouTube at Can't Cancel Rob Smith.
Wonderful. Rob, great to see you.
All right. Thanks, brother.